Welcome into the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show, presented by my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Hope everyone had a wonderful rest of your Monday, and how could you not? You get news of DeMar Hamlin coming home. Flyers dominate. Sam Ersson shuts everybody out last night. Yeah, that's right. I went there. It was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I guess that was a national championship game. Turns out everybody wants our assistant coaches now throughout the NFL to be their coaches, so everyone's going to get an interview. So that's exciting. And Sixers are back in action tonight, and Jalen Hurts just wants to keep working. But I start off with this. It is the best news you could possibly get. Yesterday, it was Shefty putting it out there, saying DeMar Hamlin has been discharged from the hospital, is returning home to Buffalo, per the physicians at the University of Cincinnati Health Center. Also, Hamlin tweeting out about 20 minutes later, himself headed home to Buffalo today with a lot of love on my heart. Watching the world come together around me on Sunday was truly an amazing feeling. The same love you all have shown me is the same love that I plan to put back into the world, and more, bigger than football. Wonderful news to see him returning home to Buffalo. Wonderful to see him in the hospital, but posting the pictures with his family, with the hearts out and the whole thing. And then to see him come home, a relief, an absolute relief to see all this come to fruition. And now, and by the way, doctors are still trying to officially figure out what happened. He's still going to be going through tests. He's still going through rehab, and he's still doing a lot of stuff like that. But bottom line is he gets to go home. And when we all saw what took place on that Monday night a week ago, I think time stood still for a minute. So it's great to see that he's going to be headed home. Continued prayers, continued recovery to DeMar Hamlin, and continued love and support to his family, obviously. Yesterday, I made this point a lot last year, and this is why I did not lose faith in Jalen Hurts. This is why after last year, I didn't say they got to draft a quarterback, they got to trade for a quarterback, they got to. I wanted to see, and as you saw in our little throwback there, our Uncle Jerry tribute last week, you saw while I was sitting on Buckeye, while I was sitting on the horse, I even said then last summer, hey, let's see what this Jalen Hurts guy's got. I say keep the picks, see what Hurts has got. And the reason I wanted to see that is because I never bet against, and what is it I always say? I never bet against someone that has talent and a great work ethic. That is a dangerous combination. So Jalen Hurts, with that talent and with that dangerous work ethic, rides this season all the way into the MVP conversation. Rides this season to the number one seed in the NFC, first round bye, and I'm expecting a playoff victory, the first of his career. Let's see how far we can go after that. So you ride it as long as you can. And Jalen Hurts this year has done a phenomenal job. And I think he is, and I think most people would agree, he has played himself into the franchise role of the Philadelphia Eagles. Is going to be due a very big fat contract at the end of this year. So as this whole thing is played out with Jalen Hurts, he has taken his work ethic and have that take his talent to the absolute next level. So yesterday, when I was reading the story of Nick Sirianni going on WIP and saying that Jalen, after he gave the team the day off, Jalen Hurts said, hey, yeah, everyone's got off tomorrow. Okay, great. Let's watch tape. And Nick Sirianni goes, okay, all right, yeah, let's go watch tape. Yeah, sure. You have the day off, And he's like, yeah, it's great. I want more. That, to me, sums up Jalen Hurts. I talked about him last year as a guy that was mentally on steroids. And we talk a lot about mental health. And I always say this, and we should. It's definitely worth the time to talk about, and it's something that I think was brushed aside for generations, but definitely worth bringing to the forefront, mental health. At the same time, I think we should be celebrating people that are excellent role models for what good mental health is. And how Jalen Hurts approaches his craft is great work ethic, is great mental health. Nothing keeps this guy down. And I think to have the mental fortitude to say, I don't really need that day off. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to keep watching film. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back to the office. And I'm going to keep on working. Because I know if I work and I watch film on maybe these teams that we might be playing here coming up in a week, I'm going to go ahead and try to get as much out of it as I possibly can so that I know that when push comes to shove, I'll know what defense they're in. I'll know what to read. I'll know what play to check into. And I'll also, by watching film, know what mistakes I can be better at, what mistakes I can improve upon in those crucial moments of a playoff game. I know it's cliche, but I can't help myself. That's my quarterback. And on the Jacob Media pregame show, and I'll ask the same question of Reuben Frank, who's our guest today of NBC Sports Philadelphia, dear friend of mine. He'll be talking about Jalen Hurts and breaking down the birds with me a little bit later on in the show today. I asked the question of Derek Gunn, of Seth Joyner, and Roob. Of all the things that Jalen Hurts has done from last year to this year, what is the thing that has really improved, that he's improved upon the most? And I think you could go to how he breaks down the defense, how his pre-snap reads, generally reading a defense. You could go to his accuracy. For me, I think when you really try to put your finger on that one thing, it makes you think about all the things that he has improved upon from last year to this year. Work ethic, that's his work ethic. That's just the way the guy is. Everyone last year talked about how much work he puts in, how much on the field, how much he's trying to get the guys together to throw the ball around. All that stuff is wonderful, and you've seen it come to fruition this year. That work come to fruition. That work ethic bear fruit. But when you really try to nail down that one thing that he's done better than anything else, the biggest step forward he's taken this year from last year to this year, it really makes you think, oh my God, I mean, everything else is a big step. Everything is a big step forward. What's the giant leap forward that you're looking at? For me, I don't remember seeing him go through all these pre-snap reads last year like he did. This year, he is going through it tremendously. I think the biggest example of it, although it was such a big example that it was almost to a fault, was that Cardinals game where everything was, he didn't like what the defense was doing. He checked down to a bubble screen. Didn't like what the defense was showing. Checked down to a bubble screen. And I was like, okay, I guess I think that's him checking it down there. I don't know, but it looks like that's what's happening. And sure enough, Shane Steichen addresses the media that week. And he's like, yeah, a lot of those were checkdowns. Oh, the pre-snap reads. A lot of those came out of the pre-snap reads from Jalen. I was like, oh, okay. Well, at least he's, first off, got the authority, because that's been in question with quarterbacks in the past, that whether or not they have the authority to check out of a play. And I don't know, audible, like every quarterback should have the ability to do. But Jalen Hurts has that, and Jalen Hurts was doing it this year. And to go from a guy who was talked about in the playoff game last year against the Bucs, this guy can't read a defense, to being a guy who can really break down what's in front of him and being comfortable in that offense for a second straight year, yeah, that's pretty much what I've seen the biggest leap forward in. But then right after that, if you watch these slant routes that are run by this Eagles team, and a deep ball will get there, but the slants, the 10 and outs, the basic routes you're seeing from these receivers, and the ball being right there from Jalen Hurts, accuracy, I would say maybe not right up there with how he has been breaking down what's in front of him, but it's maybe one baby step behind it. When I see A.J. Brown hitting those slant routes, Quez Watkins hitting a slant route, when I see Devontae Smith run it, or those quick outs, whatever they might be, the ball's right there in the hip pocket. And like every throw should be, you always want to give the opportunity to the wide receiver to have a little running room there. There was one throw on a slant with A.J. Brown in this past game against the Giants that it looked like their timing was a little off. Replay showed, and then I went back to watch it again. A.J. Brown got bumped, making his break, so that threw the timing off a little bit. But if he wasn't bumped, I felt like it would have been right on the money, and A.J. Brown would have had room to run and finish that route and get a couple of more yards after the catch. And that has been what Jalen Hurts has set up his receivers with time and time again this season. So if I had to put a list together of what Jalen Hurts did, this is what I ultimately ended up doing yesterday when this was rattling around in my brain. I look at how he has improved on breaking down the defense, how he has improved on his accuracy, and how he has improved on his deep ball accuracy. Because I put that in a totally different category than just the slants or the quick throws, whatever it might be. But when you see him throw that deep ball, there is touch on it. There's loft on it. There has been instances this year where he has just thrown pillows down the football field. And probably the one of the most miraculous ones he has made this year, one of the most on-the-money throws he has made this year, was after he injured his shoulder against the Bears during that throw down the sideline to A.J. Brown. It was a gorgeous throw. And there have been instances this year where you have seen him throw into double coverage, but he has trusted his receiver to make the play. And you know what? He also does have the talent and the confidence in the talent down the field to make the play. But you have seen those three things really come to fruition. You have seen him be comfortable in this offense for the second straight year. You have seen him go out there and be more accurate as a quarterback. And you have seen him go out there and break down what is in front of him so he can exploit whatever weakness they're giving him. And those things all together have made Jalen Hurts that MVP candidate. And I have been blown away by watching him this year. And I was thinking about it like this. Like, if you're Brandon Graham, or you're Fletcher Cox, or you're any of those guys that were on the Super Bowl roster, or you're even Jason Kelsey, you have to be feeling better about this roster going into the playoffs than the roster you had going into the playoffs in 2017, 2018, before you won the Super Bowl. Because as much as you love Nick Foles, and I've referenced this many times over the last week, Nick Foles was not playing good football going into the playoffs. Really, the entire team. I mean, defensively, you were playing pretty good football. But offensively speaking, there was a conversation. There was a conversation going on about, well, maybe Nate Sudfeld should play and not Nick Foles. Maybe we should go Nate Sudfeld. Because Nick Foles was having that moment. Like, he threw 4 touchdown passes against the Giants. And I believe at least 3 of the 4 touchdown passes were in short field situations where the defense got the ball back in short field for the offense, whatever. But you weren't feeling good about Nick Foles at that point. And everyone was thinking, a lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people were thinking, Nate Sudfeld, maybe? And then, of course, Nick Foles goes on to be the Super Bowl MVP. But the point is, if you would have had Carson Wentz, who at the time, let's go with at the time, was playing like, an MVP, was playing like Jalen Hurts, I think you would have felt a little bit more confident about the team's odds going forward. Now, of course, everything fell into place. Okay, so any given Sunday, right? But for this Eagles team, you have to be feeling a lot more confident now that you have an MVP caliber quarterback going into the playoffs. Oh, and you've got a pretty good defense as well to go along with that. A defense that takes the football away, a defense that gets to the quarterback, a defense that forces mistakes. All those things combined should get, and also home field advantage, just like that team did as well. Oh, and the first round bye, just like that team as well. Like a top seed. So for all those reasons, you'd have to feel, if you're Brandon Graham, if you're Fletcher Cox, if you're Jason Kelsey, if you're hopefully a healthy Lane Johnson, you got to be feeling pretty good about this team going forward, better than you felt about the team in 2017. So I look forward to breaking that down over the next couple of weeks, but that's certainly how I feel going into it. Another thing that came up yesterday that just, you get that top seed, you don't even have to be a Super Bowl team yet. It's like you win a Super Bowl, and it's almost like you're, any coach other than your special teams coach can be a head coach anywhere. Your quarterback's coach can become a head coach all of a sudden, Andy Reid. You had the assistant head coach title, if you remember, before he got hired by the Eagles. But you're watching all it play out, and Shane Steichen is now getting interest from around the league. Jonathan Gannon is getting interest again from the Houston Texans. They're hitting him up again for a head coaching job, potentially. They've also hit up Shane Steichen, the Houston Texans have, so now they have their eyes on both Eagles coordinators. Last night, the Colts also put their name in the ring there for an interview with Shane Steichen, as did the Carolina Panthers with Shane Steichen. Jeff McClain is always on top of this in terms of asking these coordinators about their head coaching candidacy before the offseason starts. And I give both of them a lot of credit. They say it's flattering, but they're concentrating on their job at hand right now. They say it's a compliment, but they're concentrating on the job at hand right now. So I give them credit for that. One thing that has really jumped out to me about Steichen, because I don't feel like we talk about him enough. Very rarely do we talk about the offensive coordinator when you have a offensive-minded head coach. But Steichen from the get-go has given me head coach vibes. I'm going to go ahead and say Shane Steichen is in his last days with the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know if it's going to be the Panthers. I don't know if it's going to be the Colts. I don't know if it's going to be the Texans. I don't know if it's going to be some other team that comes out later, whatever it might be. The Cardinals, who just got rid of Kingsbury as well. But for me, I don't think Shane Steichen is going to be I don't think Shane Steichen is going to be the offensive coordinator of the Eagles next year. In his press conferences, he carries himself like a head coach. I feel like he always gives good and well-informed answers. I always feel like he's very direct. And most importantly, above all else, I feel like he's got command. When you just hear him speak, when you hear players talk about him, they talk about him with respect. When you hear players talk about the type of game plan that he helps put together with Nick Sirianni and the plays that he calls, they all just come back with rave reviews. And when you get a chance to see him speak, he does have that command. He, from the get-go, when Nick Sirianni was struggling through his first couple of press conferences, I was listening to the Shane Steichen guy. I'm like, this guy's not the head coach? Like that, just judging from the press conferences at that point. This guy's not the head coach? I think I'd listen to this guy on the sidelines more than that guy. The other guy over here, this Nick Sirianni character, is just like we're gonna pass. Now here, right? We're gonna pass. Here's the play. Here's the play. Steichen would be like, corner of the end zone, touchdown. Like it was like two totally different personas, head coach and coordinator. So he's always giving me head coach vibes. So I think he's in his last days with the Philadelphia Eagles. Gannon, I don't know. This league tends to always go offense above all else. So Steichen certainly has that going for him more so than Gannon. But man, Gannon was the hot name last year. And now it just seems like the Texans, maybe the Broncos, were two teams that were kicking the tires at him last year as well. So when it comes to the rest of the league, looking at your coordinators, that's a good thing. You want a little bit of that. Hey, you guys got any of that Eagles coordinator, John, huh? It's a good thing. The league wants what you have. That's obviously a very good thing. But if you're asking me who's going to get a job over the other, I'm going to go ahead and assume it's going to be that Shane Steichen character over Jonathan Gannon. And I hate to say this. I don't hate to say this. Gannon, people, has done a great job with this defense. I don't feel like there's been a lot of change from last year to this year. I feel like Howie Roseman has really helped Jonathan Gannon run the scheme or philosophy that he wants to run, and he's simply gotten him better players to do it, which is a huge hat tip to Howie Roseman for that. Hassan Reddick's had a monster year for this team. Josh Sweat, up until the injury, has had a monster year for this team. Javon Hargrave has been a monster on that defensive line since coming over here from Pittsburgh a couple years ago. Jordan Davis, whose name I barely hear anymore, it seems like. But in the certainly beginning of the year was just blowing guys up there on the offensive line. From the Eagles' defensive line standpoint, of course. I have been amazed by what this defense has done. So if another year, Jonathan Gannon with a lot of these guys together again, yeah, okay, I'll take it. And probably one of the biggest feathers in the cap of Jonathan Gannon is bringing along C.D. Deuce, who hadn't played the safety position since college. And he comes out and he's leading the league in interceptions. And the way Gannon was using him was the way he should have used him. By not only having him play that more traditional safety role, but also having him coming up as another linebacker for this team, being at the line of scrimmage, getting tackles for loss, being aggressive, which is almost how you would use a slot corner. So I felt like I did a great job of that. For a guy that takes a lot of criticism, I feel overall his unit was fantastic this year. So I give him a lot of credit for that. And I totally understand why he's getting head coaching consideration again for another year. But bottom line is, I think this is an offensive league. This is an offensive league, as we all know. And if I had to bet on who's going to be here and who's not going to be here, there's a chance both of them are not here. And that would be a little bit of a gut punch there for the Eagles. They'd lose both coordinators. But if you're asking me which one has better odds of not being here, which one is more likely to not be here next year, it would be Shane Steichen, because of that big feather in his cap he's got with the offensive side of the football. Oh yeah, and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts helping people get paid. Before I get to Reuben Frank, I do two more things I want to get to here. Hat tip to the Philadelphia Flyers, who have now won 5 of their last 6. Red hot, thank you very much. And 23-year-old Swedish goaltender Sam Ersson with 28 saves in the victory last night. The 4-0 win. Joel Farrell, by the way, getting his 9th goal of the season. Not too shabby for the Flyers. I would love for the Flyers to really get hot at the time the Flyers are winding down. Or excuse me, at the time the Eagles are winding down. And then, hot Flyers team and a Sixers team get ready for the All-Star break, the trade deadline, the playoffs, get all those things going together again. Get me on the flip back on my Tuesdays and Thursdays like I was in high school, going back when both teams are great. Oh, man, that'd be a good time. Let's get that going, Flyers. Sixers, by the way, got the Pistons tonight, so there you go. College football fans, that was a national championship last night. That wasn't an exhibition. That was the real deal, right? Holy Lord, Georgia. What the hell's bells, TCU? So I'm watching the game, later just following the game. But last night, the national championship game between Georgia and TCU, Georgia was up 10-7 with about just under 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. Georgia's up 10-7. By the end of the first half, it was 38-7. Not much of a game. Georgia, by the way, 17 points in the first quarter, tied a championship record for most points in the first quarter. So, okay. That seems like a low number, by the way, for first quarter. But anyway, that's what it was. But Georgia goes on to win 65-7. So, that was the national championship game last night in a nutshell. Georgia, them Bulldogs, they're back-to-back champions. Congratulations, Jordan Davis. Congratulations, friend of the show, N'Kobe Dean, on the championship there. Back-to-back years. Not too bad. Before we get to our guest today, Reuben Frank, let me tell you about my man Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. When it comes to your big jewelry purchases, trust one man, the man with the perfect price, each and every day online at I8StevenSinger.com. That's I8StevenSinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, the perfect price. Online at I8StevenSinger.com. Always fast and free shipping at I8StevenSinger.com. Without further ado, let's jump on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line and talk to our friend Reuben Frank from NBC Sports Philadelphia. Right now, the Rothman Orthopedics guest line from NBC Sports Philadelphia and the Eagle Eye podcast with our other friend, Dave Zangaro. Reuben Frank joins us. What's up, Rube?
Dave who?
Zangaro? Zangaro?
Oh, it rings a bell, but I don't know.
How you been, buddy? What's going on?
Doing well. Fun part of the year. This is what we're lucky here. The Eagles have been in the playoffs. I think it's like 17 out of 27 years since Lurie bought the team. So this is like, a lot of teams don't have that luxury. Now they've only finished it off the right way once, but they're always in the mix. They're always in the hunt, and that's better than the alternative for most teams.
Sure, better than not, obviously. I do want to ask you this because you've been covering the team for more than a minute here, my friend. When you do look back on this, regular season now, how does this Eagles regular season and regular season only stack up against some of the best Eagles teams you've covered?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, you'd have to look at 04, 17, and this year. I mean, those are the three. 02 and 03, they were really good. They just didn't get to, where they were supposed to. I thought the 03 team was actually better than the 04 team. And that whole run, I mean, they were just, from 2000 to 2004, they were as good as anybody. That was such a great run. To not win a Super Bowl in that stretch, when you look back, is really surprising. But this team is as fun as any of them, just because. And they all kind of have their different personalities. 04 was like finally, just making it. I mean, it was their 5th straight, deep playoff run, and they come up short every year. So that was kind of the TO year that made it fun. 17, just the way Nick came in and replaced Carson made it unique. And this year, I think it's just seeing Jalen's growth has made it a really special year. I kind of thought he was going to be really good, but I didn't think he'd be this good. the last couple games notwithstanding. But it's there's if I covered the Lions, I would have never covered a playoff win, right? I mean, I think the last playoff win they had was 91. I guess I would have. I think the Browns haven't won a playoff game since, or maybe one since they restarted the franchise in the 90s. Yeah. So there's so many. But I don't think I would have lasted at those jobs.
Yeah, you can't. Baker Mayfield. I have to say this, otherwise my father-in-law will scream at me. But the lifelong Browns fan, Baker Mayfield beat the Steelers, man.
Yeah, I was looking at the Dolphins. You know who the last quarterback to win a playoff game for the Dolphins was?
Jay Feely.
Jay Fiedler.
Not the kicker. Not the kicker,
but and AJ Feely was the quarterback. But yeah, you're on the right track. It was Jay Fiedler from Dartmouth. Right? I remember Jay Fiedler was on the Eagles practice squad at one point. But
wow.
Yeah, so we're really lucky around here, even though there's a lot to complain about. This team always makes it interesting.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that, because what am I supposed to take away from a 22-16 win over the JV Giants? Like, how should I feel about that win that we witnessed on Sunday?
Well, if I'm a Giants fan, I'm sitting here thinking, all right, the Eagles beat our starters 48-22, and they beat our backups 22-16. So we've been playing the wrong guys all year, right?
Totally.
If I was a Giants fan, that's how I'd look at it. Like, what are you doing playing the starters? Look, it wasn't the way I thought it would play out. I think my prediction was 30-10. I think the Eagles went into it thinking, Jake Elliott hasn't really had that much work this year. Let's try to get him some kicks. And he went 5 for 5. I've always believed that a win's a win and nothing else matters. Obviously, there's some concerns that game brought up. But when you look at it, I think Jalen was so limited. He just clearly, you could see right from the start, he wasn't himself. And he was, I don't know if it was just rusty or the shoulder was really still bothering him. I think as the game went on, it might have tightened up because he really missed some throws he doesn't miss. They had a touchdown callback again on a penalty. They were terrible in the red zone. They still found a way to win. And I've never believed that there's any connection in football between like what you do one week and what you do the next week, because like you see teams like blow teams out one week and then they get blown out the next. It's all turnovers and making big plays. And the Eagles did those things more than any team in the league other than maybe the Chiefs. So when you do those things on a weekly basis, you win most of your games, and they just didn't do that. They didn't do that yesterday, but they made enough plays to win. But kind of going into the playoffs, I don't think there's any connection between the way they played against the Giants and how I'd expect them to come out and play. So as far as, are you concerned that they finished the season 2-2? They actually got outscored their last 4 games. Not really, because it's a new season. They have 2 weeks to fix their mistakes, correct things. Other teams only have 1 week. And I think one thing we do, and I'm guilty of this, we probably all are, we think we're the only, like, you see, well, they can't stop the run. Well, they're not the only team, like, with problems, with issues. Like, they gave up too many sacks, whatever it is. Every team has those issues. Every team has things that they got to fix, that they want to work on going into the playoffs. I mean, the 49ers are playing lights out. They just gave up, 370 yards to Jarrett Stidham in his first start. The Chiefs, everyone's probably the best team in football, but that's not a great defense. So every team's got stuff. I think we're just kind of, we magnify because we see it every day. But this team has a lot going for it, and I'd be surprised if they don't play really well in the playoffs.
Now, as far as the offense goes, just in that game against the Giants, did you feel, I saw words like vanilla being thrown out there, preseason game. Did you feel like they were dialing it down a little bit as far as the play calling went, or it just wasn't good execution?
Yeah, I think there was a couple things at play. They definitely did a little of that. When it was 19-0, I mean, I think they all kind of thought, or even when it was 16-0, like, this game's over. And they kind of went into cruise control a little bit. And they gave up a couple plays that they really shouldn't have given up. That touchdown was just an incredible catch by Galladay. And, the quarterback had that touchdown run. That just never should happen. But yeah, I think that was the case. And I also think when Jalen's not 100%, like it really permeates the whole team. It's like his performance is so intertwined with the whole team's performance, probably more than most quarterbacks and teams, just because of the nature of his game, the uniqueness of his game. And I think Miles not being really healthy, and once they turned to Boston and Gainwell started moving the ball more. But yeah, I just think they were out of sync because Jalen was out of sync.
Mm-hmm.
I would think in 2 weeks he'll hopefully be beyond a lot of those issues, and you have Lane back hopefully again. Miles is healthier, so it was weird. They just, if you had asked me, well, I mean, I think my prediction was 30. Yeah, 30.
Yeah.
If you told me that they were going to score 22, but they say, hey, you got a touchdown called back. They were 0 for whatever, 0 for 5 in the red zone, 0 for 4. They could have easily scored 40. They just didn't.
Yeah, and a touchdown that was called back on a penalty that, I don't know. I don't think it had anything to do with the play. It wasn't like a hold that opened up the line of scrimmage for whoever.
It's a stupid rule. It's a stupid enforcement. Under the letter of the law, Landon Dickerson was illegally downfield, but it's so stupid. He's just blocking a guy.
Right.
And then the penalty on him last week that negated the Gainwell. I mean, it's like the worst call I've ever seen.
And then this is what came out, I think, a little bit later. Not a lot of people talked about this. The fact that Jordan Mailata said he did talk to the official, and the official was like, no, it was on Landon. Like, because Mailata originally thought it was on him. They just got the number wrong. But no, the fact that they reaffirmed it is even worse. Two quick things on Jalen. Just what percentage do you think we saw on that? Because they kept things close to the vest when it came to the shoulder injury.
Yeah, I expect him to be closer to 100 than he was. He led on after the game that I think Nick said it first that he was in a lot of pain.
He was sore, yeah.
And Jalen, he was at, I think John Clark asked him, how close to 100% were you? And he said, close enough to win or something like that.
Yeah, good enough, close enough, yeah.
Good enough, yeah. I think he was probably at like 65%.
Oof, wow. All right. Well, now that win's looking a lot better now. And then you talked about his maturation process, his improvement. Is there one thing specifically that you look at from Jalen Hurts' game from last year to this year that you saw him take the biggest step forward in?
Yeah, processing. I thought his internal clock, his internal processor worked a lot more efficiently, and he was able to accelerate his whole operation of dropping back, scanning the field, finding the open guy, and even his delivery was quicker. Everything was quicker. Everything moved faster. And the faster you get rid of the ball, the more, the more advantageous the matchup is between the receiver and the defender. So I thought that was the biggest thing. I thought everything else kind of came from that, just understanding better what defenses are doing and being able to match his own, mental process with that understanding, and that kind of really gave him a big advantage over defenses.
Now looking ahead to the playoffs as the Eagles take this bye week, you mentioned Lane Johnson earlier. What are your expectations for him? I'm going to give you a couple of names, but Lane Johnson first. Expectations for the playoffs for Lane.
Yeah, it's a little scary because I don't know how you do that job with a core muscle injury. And, you generate your power from your core. That's why guys are always talking about building up their core. That's where you generate your power. When you see a lineman anchor, it's the power is coming from his core, and going up and down from there. And when you see him pushing off, I mean, it's all leverage. And without that, or with that limited severely, I don't know how effective he can be. I know if it's a matter of pain tolerance, it's not a factor because he can play through anything. But I just worry about his ability to play at that level that we're used to. I don't know how much having these weeks off will help him. I don't know what kind of, I don't know if there's a way he can strengthen himself. I just don't know. This is kind of uncharted waters. I think if he's at 70, 75%, you're better off with him out there. But I think the big concern is that he'll start off okay, and then it'll get worse, and you have to make a switch in the middle of the game and get Driscoll in there, who is adequate, but it's a big drop off. So it's scary. They need him. You know, this O-line hasn't been great, and they've been kind of disappointing the last few weeks. So they talk like they're the best O-line, but without Lane, they haven't. Obviously, even with Lane, I don't think they've had a great year. But they need him. I still think you're a better team with Mulata at right tackle and Dillard at left tackle. I know they'll never do that, and Stoutland will, the proverbial getting weaker at two spots, but I'm not sure that applies here. But it really handicaps what you can do offensively, because you have to help Driscoll out, and when Lane's there, you don't have to help him out. So that's a guy who can be running patterns. So it really changes the way you play.
Gotcha. Did I see this right? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson actually played 100% of the defensive snaps on Sunday. So I guess, full tilt, man. He seems like he's ready to go. Yeah,
he played well. I thought he and Kaiser White were their best defensive players Sunday. It's great to have Gardner-Johnson back. He's such a playmaker on a team that really hasn't had many in the second half of the season. So, and I like what Gannon did. He dropped him down into the slot in nickel and brought Reed Blankenship in instead of using Josiah Scott. You want your best guys on the field, and you'd rather have Blankenship on the field than Josiah Scott. And Josiah Scott played better, I thought, in the Saints game. But your best secondary, and I don't think Avonte Maddox is coming back. He's still in a boot. So after the game, the guys saw him in a boot in the locker room. So maybe if he's not on IR, so they don't need the roster spot yet, but it doesn't look great for him. So I think that's what you're going to see from here on out. You're going to see Blankenship, he's been really, really solid. You'll see him at safety and nickel with Chauncey going down into the slot.
How bad do you think he wants that Webb run back? Blankenship. Yeah, Reed.
Yeah.
Not his favorite.
No, it wasn't a great rep for him. I think he thought Webb was going to slide. But slide. So
no.
that play cost the Eagles the number 1 defense ranking for the year.
Oh, points per game?
Yards per game.
Okay.
Yeah,
damn it. You mentioned Avonte Maddox already. Josh Sweat, chance to get him back for the playoffs?
Yeah, I think he'll be back at some point. We don't get timetables, we don't get updates.
Right.
So we don't know, but I know he was optimistic. Another edge rusher, and he's having a really good year. Had a really good year before he got hurt. So scary injury. But hopefully they have him back.
All right, 2 more quick ones for you here. Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon both getting head coaching interviews, it looks like. At least they're kicking the tires down there in Houston with both coordinators. Who do you think would make the better head coach?
Yeah, interesting question. I generally think offensive coaches make the best head coaches, just because in the modern game, the quarterback is such a huge part of every team's overall. So I just like having an offensive head coach. Jeff Lurie hasn't hired a defensive coach since Ray Rhodes, 27 years ago. So, Andy, offensive guru, Chip, offensive guru, Doug, quarterback, Nick, wide receivers coach. So I think Shane's going to be really good. I think Gannon will too. Gannon's really good coach, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why Eagles fans don't like the guy. You got the number 1 pass defense in the league. You got the number 2 overall defense in the league. You had the 4th highest sack total in history. I don't know what else people want. They kept points down almost every week. This defense is elite, and they do a lot of things well. They have star power. And guys didn't make plays the second half like they did the first half, and they still – finished 14-3. I crack up when people say he's not aggressive enough. They have the 4th highest sack total in history. 70 sacks if you're not aggressive.
But do they count if you're not blitzing? I'm kidding.
They count more because you're not taking somebody out of coverage.
I agree. The scheme, the philosophy, whatever you want to call it with Gannon, that it just worked better with the personnel that I think Howie certainly provided. Last thing for you, when you look at these playoff teams that the Eagles could face in the divisional round, is there any matchup you like more than another?
Yeah, I don't think it matters because they can beat anybody. And I would expect them to beat anybody. Obviously, the Niners are playing really well right now, but look, the Eagles have that bye. They earned that bye. That's huge to get that week off while everyone else is out there playing the game, grinding, and to be home where they're, what are they, 7-2 this year? And I believe they're like 11-2 in their last 13, something like that. But no, there's really not. And I like any matchup they get. I think is a good matchup, especially in the first round. I think they win that game by double digits. I really want to see the Cowboys come in, and the Eagles. They've had kind of a mental block with Dak. Like, Dak has had a terrible year, but he's like lights out against this team. I think it's a step that the Eagles need to take to get a big win over Dak, over the Cowboys. I think it would be great for the team's confidence. And it would, all the national pundits love the Cowboys, even though they just lost to Washington by 20. But I would love to see the Eagles have the opportunity to shut that franchise up, shut that city up, and shut up all the people. Look, the Cowboys have won 3 playoff games since Irvin, Emmett, and Aikman. 3 since the mid-'90s, since '96. Eagles have won, I think, 17 during that same period, 15, 17.
And a Super Bowl.
And a Super Bowl. Yeah, Dallas has not done that in a while. They're really talented. I mean, they got a lot of really good players, but I don't see a team out there other than the 49ers that really concerns me. And I think the Eagles at home over the 49ers, I think they win that game.
I like it. No, I'm with you there, my friend. And then just lastly, if I could get an official ruling on this, when is it too late to say Happy New Year? It has to be within the first week of January, close to the first week? When is it too late to say Happy New Year?
I would say like August 10th. I say Happy New Year year round.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe somebody's celebrating, I don't know.
When you see someone you haven't seen in a couple of years, I always say happy birthday. My birthday was in May. I say, well, I haven't seen you in 2 years, so you've had a couple of birthdays since then. So,
Happy New Year, happy birthday from Reuben Frank. We're going to make that into a
Happy Bastille Day to you, Mark.
Happy Bastille Day, my friend.
Healthy, happy Bastille Day.
You're a good man. You're a good man. From NBC Sports Philadelphia, the great Reuben Frank. Rube, always great catching up with you. Thanks, brother.
You too, Mark.
Reuben Frank joining us on the Ruffin Orthopedics guest line. I think the general rule for the Happy New Year is I keep it to a week. If you're someone I haven't seen in a long time, and I'm just bumping into you, and we're maybe in the second week of January, which we are right now, you might get a Happy New Year from me. But man, there are people, woof, they push it into that third week, and I'm like, easy, all right? Backing off. All right, office person I don't talk to that much. Back it off. My thanks to Reuben Frank. Before we get to the morning rush, before we get to our social media check-in, as we used to call it, the old chat check there, update for you guys on the move, Farzy family move 2023. I move away from my home in a week. And my wife and I realized that when we got back from Colorado, we landed and we're like, we move in a week. But now we literally move in a week. So just to walk you up to that process, I don't think I'll have a studio for a couple days. So, because there's like a 2-day lull between moving from the one house to the other house. So, and I'm going to get that new studio built as soon as possible. It's probably going to just look a lot like this in the beginning stages. But I will, because we're leading up also to an Eagles playoff game, I am going to definitely stock some interviews for you guys for next week so that you guys do have that fresh, good content for you. Getting ready for Eagles and whatever team they're going to beat in the divisional round of the playoffs. So I just wanted to give you guys the update there. Let me tell you the great people, the Manscaped. Manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy at manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping when you go to manscaped.com. The leader in below-the-waist grooming. And now they have their best hygiene bundle yet. Their Platinum Package 4.0. It includes their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, their Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, and they both come with skin-safe technology that helps you reduce the risk of nicks so you can manscape with confidence and comfort. So go to manscaped.com and enjoy all that Manscaped has to offer. At manscaped.com, use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping. All right, now let's jump into the chat check, see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine, fine morning. Sean Gillespie, good morning, Sean. Kevin, what's going on? April, good morning, April. Sean Gillespie, very good news indeed about DeMar, absolutely. Clay, hello. April, I'm still blown away at his recovery. Amazing news. Clay, I would love it if Seattle would knock off the Niners. I just don't want Seattle coming to Philly. Well, wait a minute, hold on a second. I don't want Seattle coming to Philly. The Birds haven't beaten Seattle in Philly since 1989. Really? Damn, that sucks. I did not realize that. And Clay, I'll make you privy to this. So my cousin-in-law, John, is an Oregonian, and great guy. Love him to pieces. And he is a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. And he texted me yesterday. He's just like, oh, man, if the Seahawks won and they play the Eagles, that'd be awesome. And I'm like, just so you know, I would hate every fiber of your being for that week. But I love you. But, yeah, he's stoked for that possibility. And I really can't get over it. Geno Smith has been knocked around, man, in an NFL career, and he gets this chance in Seattle, totally makes the most of it. And I give him all the credit in the world for it. First off, got a little bit of a chance last year. If you remember, Russell Wilson actually got injured and missed a couple of games with that torn ligaments in his finger, I believe it was. It wasn't a broken finger. But either way, Geno Smith plays well. The Seahawks decide that's it with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson then decides that's it for the Seahawks and moves on to the Broncos. And Geno Smith, without question, makes the most of it and gets his team into the playoffs. I referenced it yesterday, one of the highest passer ratings in the entire NFL. Credit to him. Top 5 guy as far as all that's concerned. Good for him. But, yeah, Seattle's just – it's not your mom's Seattle team. That's for sure. But playing hot, yeah, I get you. I don't see them beating the Niners, though. Better Seattle than Dallas or the Niners. Sean, I agree with you there. Clay, here's what and Clay says, but Philly has been owned by Seattle. I get you. Here's the deal. I have learned, and I kind of agree with Nick Sirianni on this, or not I absolutely agree with Nick Sirianni on this. When you start talking about stuff since 1989, they're not the same team. They're not the same team. That's not even the same uniform anymore. I mean, that uniform gives us palpitations. No. I'm not too concerned about it. It's a totally different team. Jalen Hurts wasn't the quarterback in 1989. You know, it's a totally different era. Random Anton, I don't care who we face. We have to beat the best to be the best. Random? That's not random at all. That's the old Ric Flair adage. You got to be the man to beat. You got to beat the man to be the man. Clay, you're chatty this morning. I hope you're correct, Sean. They still make me nervous. Hey, look, it's the playoffs. Anything can happen. That's why everybody says. That's why in 2017, all Doug Peterson was talking about, and in 2018, all Doug Peterson was talking about, and in 2019, all Doug Peterson was talking about. Just get to the tournament. Just get into the tournament. Fuji, what's up, Food? Ooh, Frank Reich for offensive coordinator and Vic Fangio for defensive coordinator. Oh, baby. Fuji, you just tapped into something there. I mentioned earlier Howie Roseman and how much Jonathan Gannon has Howie Roseman to thank for the influx of talent to the defensive side of the football. The Eagles also brought in Vic Fangio as a defensive consultant. So I think it's fair to at least ask the question. Jonathan Gannon, what is it you say you do here, really? Because you got a lot more talent because Howie Roseman, and you apparently had someone in a heavily influential advisory role with Vic Fangio. So how much of this pie is on your plate, Jonathan Gannon? How much is on your plate? Just a question. Just a question. Interesting. I'll have to get a defensive-minded player on. Talk about that. Talking about defense, 11 free agents at the end of this year. Yeah, Clay, there's a lot of people that got to get re-signed. No question about that. Sean Gillespie. Sirianni is like Jimmy Fallon. He is like Jimmy Fallon. That's actually, I think, a fair comparison. Wait, we got a Cowboys fan talking facts. Random Anton, can we have a different nickname for CJGJ? No. His nickname is CD Deuce. When he became a Philadelphia Eagle, he says people call him Chauncey, people call him CJ, people call him CJGJ, people call him CD Deuce. And I'm like, that one right there. That one, the last one. The last thing you said, CD Deuce, you're CD Deuce. True Savage. Facts. Okay. Crap baguettes. Crap. What? Random Anton, you're ruthless. I only say Happy New Year within the first few hours. Then it's back to business. That's back to business, baby. Farzy from the U-Haul. Oh, April, to get this house staged. Ooh, man. A couple of U-Haul trips from Philly to Doylestown to mom and dad's, drop off some stuff there. Oh, our old sofa that apparently wasn't aesthetically pleasing. Whatever. Is in my parents' living room right now with their other sofa. So there you go. Geno Smith, yes, that Geno Smith now holds a single season passing record for Seattle, breaking Russell Wilson. How about that? Sean Gillespie, woo with my 600 lizard skin shoes. Woo. What the hell? Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Clay, Farzy, did you just drop a used guys? Yeah, I throw it a used guys. Apparently, the used guys. Whenever I say that, though, I'll be honest. In case you don't notice, I usually put a little extra stank on it, so you guys know that I never say used guys. Wooder is definitely something that is with no stank. I definitely say Wooder. Wooder is definitely something I say. However, I think I've made this clarification before. If you ask me what's the liquid in a river, I will likely say water. But if it's like glass of water, a bottle of water, whatever, that's usually it's water in some way, shape, or form. Anyway, I'm oversharing. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Let's get to our morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Tonight, 76ers back at it with their home and home series against the Detroit Pistons. Sixers were able to handle their business 2 nights ago when they took on the Pistons with a 123-111 victory. They tip off tonight back in South Philadelphia at 7 o'clock tonight. Sixers are 10-point favorites in that game, and Joel Embiid is expected to play in that game tonight. So let's cross our fingers that the Sixers are actually able to get him back for tonight's game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Jim Hyde produced the show. Did a wonderful job as per usual. Who do we have? Not tomorrow, but the following day. Thomas Peterson, Eagles Twitter analyst, will be joining the show all the way from Denmark. I know you guys enjoyed the conversation we had a couple of months back, so Thomas is back on the show to talk all things birds. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hey, if you like me, more me on the Jacob Media YouTube channel coming up in a second, as I'll be joining friend of the show, Jeff Kerr, for Good Morning NFC East. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. I'm Mark Farzetta. Talk to you tomorrow. See ya.